everyone. My name is Catherine, and I'm the president and founder of the Neo Cyber Institute. I'm so excited to welcome you all to the Cyber Career Series Season 2. In this set of interviews, we're shifting our focus to advice for professionals with more of a glimpse into the careers themselves. As you know, last season we kind of focused on advice for students and how to enter the career. So now we're transitioning to professionals. As always, we'll have links to the resources mentioned somewhere around the video. And we hope you enjoy the interview. I'll turn it over to Madeline to introduce herself and our speaker.
Hi, everyone. My name is Madeline. I'm the Vice President of the Neo Cyber Institute. Today, I'm very excited to be speaking with an accomplished cybersecurity educator, Donna Woods. So, Donna, thank you so much for being here today. And if you wouldn't mind, could you briefly just introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Catherine and Madeline. Thank you so much for having us in our program on Neo Cyber today. We are thrilled and honored to be here with you. As they shared, my name is Donna Woods, and I serve as the lead coordinator and an instructor for the Marina Valley Unified School District Cyber Academic Pathway. We're really excited to share about our program and to encourage students to really get into the cyber career fields or STEM career fields, because we need all different diversity of languages and cultures, and both male and females in the program. So thank you again for having us.
Of course. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Catherine to start with some of our questions today.
All right, so let's start out kind of at the very beginning. So was cybersecurity your first academic interest? And if it wasn't, then what was?
Well, cybersecurity, believe it or not, was not, only because it really didn't exist in the field when I was in college. But there was computer science still in aerospace and computer engineering. So I actually got into aerospace technologies and followed my father in that career path, wanting to be a quality engineer designer and working in aerospace. So throughout high school and college, I interned in the summer for General Dynamics and Ford Aerospace, and really loved getting to work with the engineers. So I worked on a lot of motherboards, computing designs, computing languages, which were very unusual to what you see today. Today, students have icons, right, on your apps, and you can go to things. So when we had to do, say, like getting into Windows, we had to write a whole code just to open up Windows. So it was a little different. You had to add learning coding languages. So I did have an interest there, but cyber had really not come into fruition. In fact, Steve Jobs was just starting up Apple.
And so how did you eventually transition to the field of cybersecurity if that wasn't your first interest?
Great question. Well, I enjoyed, again, in the aerospace industry, I got to work a lot with computers and the new designs of computers, learning the language. So it really started getting excited about where technologies were going, especially with the advent of Microsoft and Apple, right? So, and there weren't many women in the field at all, girls or women in the field. So I started doing some exploratory classes, and then they started offering more towards the majors in that in college. So I ventured out and working with teaching adults first as I was getting different certifications, and they were welcoming and offering several different scholarships for females to get into more of the STEM field and into cyber and what's called computing information systems at the time, right? To learn the different languages. So that was my first foray into it. And then as I got to go finish out, I thought, okay, I want to go for my teaching degree now and do this and offer this to students at both the college level and at the high school level. So I was really excited to be on the forefront because there was a high demand across the nation. NASA wanted more engineers. Again, companies like Apple and Microsoft were just coming on the forefront. So they were looking for talented individuals who would engage and be willing to learn, right? And think outside the box, provide the critical thinking and their skill sets, their natural gifting, as well as the willingness to want to learn new ideas, new concepts, and be willing to, try and be those pioneers. So it was really a fun age for us graduating and in college in the late 70s, early 80s, as all this was just taking a boom. So it's offered many, many opportunities, and that's where it changed for me.
That sounds really great. And I mean, it sounds like from what you've described that you would have been a perfect fit for somebody working as an engineer or something in the private sector. So what kind of inspired you to instead become a teacher and kind of dedicate your life to like helping other people enter the field?
Thank you. Great question. It was kind of twofold. At first, though, it really wasn't highly accepted to have females or women in STEM careers or engineering careers. And it was really tough to break through that glass ceiling. I don't dye my hair. So there were a lot of false assumptions putting on blonde that you couldn't do math or science, which I absolutely love the math and sciences. And so there were some challenges. Sometimes I'd go into a classroom or an organization and there were 300 guys and maybe 2 women. So that was tough. And then trying to go into the organization, I did love it, but I also felt that I really loved teaching both adults and students, and because they got excited. They got excited to go into this new venture, right? They wanted to hear all about what these new companies were doing. What was it about? You know, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, they were visionaries, as well as so many people, Vint Cerf, who invented the internet, right? And then to learn about the technologies of how the internet and the World Wide Web were totally different, but how all these researchers and MIT and Stanford and UCLA and people working together took their brain trust, you know, in their own heads and came up, formulated great ideas. And so it was, again, a very exciting time, but I thought I want to be on the research teaching end, to be on the forefront of what's happening. Instead of all the end trying to fight through and prove myself, I really wanted to be on the learning end and helping to mold the next generation.
That's awesome. And so a follow-up question to that. So I know Catherine and I have heard from other teachers that especially during the pandemic, teaching is just very demanding. It's a difficult job. So how do you manage to stay engaged and motivated to want to help your students even through the hard times?
It's absolutely driven by my students. When I see if I'm passionate and they are so passionate, you absolutely have to love what you do. And I do. I love making a difference in their lives, and they bring as much to the classroom as I do every day too. I share with them, you know, this learning environment, it's a shared collaborative effort, because I can't possibly know all there is to know about technology or the field of cyber, because it changes so rapidly. So we share in the classroom. We're partners in this. We're partners in the learning. We're partners in the research and the engagement and the outcomes, right? We set some goals for what we want to see at the end of the year. What projects, what do we want to engage in together? And because of how it changes so rapidly, there are always new case studies. So that's where we get the energy from. I get their excitement. It feeds me. It helps, keeps me in passion. I love to see what my alumni are doing, what they get to do even after they leave this program, and so many of the opportunities that are afforded to them while they're in the program. I mean, because of the students, we've been able to venture out and accomplish so many things within this program, from writing grants to writing the curriculum to serving and hosting camps that not only our students attend, but because of COVID, as you mentioned, Madeline, we actually got to do a virtual camp, and we hosted students from across the world. Then we started hosting teachers instruction sessions, and teachers came from Dubai and South Africa and Canada. We were just absolutely thrilled. So also this network of connections came globally, not just in our community. And that is really what drives me to keep going forward, because we see just how much it's impacting lives.
It's amazing. Kind of going off of that, do you have any particular stories of impactful experiences with students that, you know, continue to inspire you?
Oh yes, some of you are going to make me cry, but I'll try to do it without crying, because it actually changes the trajectory of our students' lives. For our particular community, we're known as a bedroom community. We're also Title I, which means very low socioeconomic. Or at the beginning, they didn't believe the students could do STEM careers or were worthy of the investment that you would make in programs like this. And we said, why not? If we set the bar high and we offer them an opportunity, I think they'll run towards it. And our students did just that. And our classes are not full of just AP or GATE or honor students. We also have special needs students. And we even found in our research and in doing the program the last 6 years that students with autism do very, very well in this particular pathway, because their brain and the way it's wired actually works really well in computer science, and particularly in cybersecurity, and reading and understanding the algorithms and the nuances of what happens in cybersecurity. So in particular, 2 students come to mind. One who was a special needs student who was going to drop out his sophomore year in high school. He was failing most of his classes. We did not see where he was fitting it at all. But thank goodness his counselor knew that he really liked computers, not just gaming, but actually computers. He joined the class, and then he really started liking the labs we were doing. He also wanted to participate in our competition team. So we said, well, we have to get tutoring and make sure you bring up your other classes to be on any of the competition teams that are school site, academic, or athletic. You have to maintain a certain GPA. So that was our first goal. Then he was so successful on the team and in the class, he wanted to go ahead and try for his IT Fundamentals Plus exam. First, he was very, very nervous. We did study groups, much like you would do in college. We prepared with the labs in class, and it came to the final day to take the exam, and he was literally just sweating bullets and said, I can't do it. Everybody was encouraging him. Not only did he pass the exam, he received one of the top 3 highest scores. So it changed his entire life. We were all crying, he was crying, but he's now in his 3rd year of college, from going from wanting to drop out his sophomore year in high school, and he was accepted at the University of San Diego in their cybersecurity program to focus with them. So that's very exciting. Our other student during COVID, who was just one of our graduates last year during the whole pandemic, we were able to get certifications for our students and have them work towards a lot of them. And some just took the initiative on their own time to really take some extra classes. We get articulated credits, and we also have our dual enrollment. So not only did he finish the certifications, he finished over 7 before his senior year was over. He finished his bachelor's degree by December after graduating high school in June, and was hired by CrowdStrike in San Antonio, Texas this January. So we're just absolutely thrilled. We have students from small industry, private sector to the larger, some at Google, some at Yahoo and Apple, which we're very excited for. But even those impacting the small business organizations that need really stellar IT or cybersecurity specialists, they're doing great. So we're proud of all our alumni. We have a 100% graduation rate and 100% placement rate. These students are either going right into the career field or directly into college, and we couldn't be prouder.
That's so awesome. And so that really speaks to just how good your curriculum is. And I know you put a lot of work into this. So I know you mentioned this at the beginning of the interview, but could you briefly just tell us again where you're creating this curriculum and generally what parts there are to it and like what it covers?
Thank you. Yeah, that came from, again, an incredible partnership and people believing that this type of program was possible at a high school level. So I started reaching out to different extensive colleges that had wonderful cyber programs. So Cal State University San Bernardino, right here in the Inland Empire, had an amazing program under Dr. Tony Polson and Dr. Vincent Nessler. Then just about 45 minutes from our high school, you had Cal Poly Pomona, an amazing engineering program and cyber program. And then we had Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And that's wonderful. So all these schools right here in California had some amazing cyber programs. I reached out to each of those professors and asked them, what would the curriculum look like? What type of student an ideal student that you would want to enter your program? What's the foundational guiding principles that they would need? Should be rewriting our curriculum? They all jumped in full-heartedly and said, okay, got to focus on Windows and Linux. And of course, cybersecurity, the algorithms, understanding the math and science behind it, program languages, and throughout every unit, ethics, ethics, ethics. And that was key because so many of the students that applied to get into college, into cyber majors or STEM or computer science majors, would also go into that major, finish 2 or 3 years, and then they couldn't pass the background check for a job or an internship. And that became very problematic. And that's what each of the university professors shared with me, is that we have great students who are super talented and gifted in this area, but they may have made a mistake, maybe on their social media, or did something inappropriate, and now it's following them. So therefore they can't pass the background checks, or maybe in their background, even in their financial, right, their credit scores, things like that. That's what a lot of these companies look for, because if I'm going to go get a job with the CIA or with Google or someone that's paying a lot of money, or at Apple, where I might have access to proprietary projects and designs, right? If I have a really bad financial background and a really poor credit report, then I might be liable for someone being able to tempt me with a lot of money to sell inside trade secrets. So these are all things that we want to prepare our students for, is that ethics are key, your background is key. What psychologically will be your push point for you to sell out someone's proprietary projects or items that they're creating, as well as cybersecurity for nation secrets, right? Organizational trade secrets. So it's real important. And those became the foundational precipice for all of our curriculum. And we were very excited that we submitted our curriculum for the UC A to G approval, and each level of our curriculum was accepted on the first submission.
It's amazing. We were also wondering, kind of, when you were creating this curriculum, did you run into any challenges or obstacles that maybe you would like other educators to be aware of if they tried to implement something like this at their schools?
Yeah, the first thing was there were no textbooks out there on cybersecurity. There were no textbooks whatsoever. There were a few college textbooks on that people had written that had been cyber specialists, right? Some things, but not particular textbooks for driven curriculum. The other side was it was to work with companies such as CompTIA or Cisco and Educator to make sure they could have curriculum lined up that they would be willing to share with high school students. For majority of these companies initially, they were providing it to organizations that already had employees employed in the cyber field. So these were where employees would go to increase their learning, maybe earn future certifications. So it really started a great conversation with all these organizations that offer, right, cyber training or boot camps. Normally to employees who are already in the field, and also look at, hey, yeah, we can expand this to colleges and to high schools. So it created a great partnership with, like I say, CompTIA, Cisco and Educator, Northrop Grumman, a lot of people that wanted to venture down. So it was not just one person, it was really the coming together. And we actually had a meeting at Cal State University San Bernardino. It was one of the first meetings where we brought 50 specialists together from these different organizations, right, to say, what would this look like? How could we create some curriculum and have some online availability to our labs that we would offer to specialists or end users that would help students while they're going through the process, be it high school or college. And then the next level that was very exciting is we all met at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo during one of their Innovation Challenge competitions. And that's where we pulled in all the chancellors of different universities, all the community college chancellors and presidents, and then the instructors, and said, there's a breakdown of communication of what we see as transferable credit, right? If we offer this at high school, we have to have a real succinct pathway. What does that pathway look like? How do we make sure students are getting articulated credit, for each level? Do you want it to be a 2 or 3 year pathway at high school? And then when they go to college, can they already earn dual enrollment college credits while in high school to transfer immediately into your programs? So it gave us an opportunity to lay some groundbreaking, foundational, excellent, and it was a trial and error, right, to see what we like. And then from that even came the standards. There were no cyber standards nationally to put into curriculum. So because all that's changed over the last 5 years, we're actually in the process of revamping our curriculum, but it's a great thing. And teachers have adopted it all over, and we get to coordinate with people across the nation at both universities and colleges, private or public, it doesn't matter. And really giving these students and talking to teachers all over it. It's really neat to see what we do from state to state. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see the opportunities we're offering this next generation. Doesn't matter if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, or even central part of the United States. We find the hardest part is getting it to those smaller communities, the farmland communities, right? Those that may not be larger inner city communities, outlying communities, they're having challenges, right? And how do they get something, a program so robust into their schools? But for the most part, we've come a long, long way in the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, and from what you're saying, it definitely sounds like the hardest part is finding those people who you can bring together, because you can't do this alone. And so I definitely think that's what a lot of educators are struggling with, just in terms of how to get started. So that's a really good thing that I'm glad you talked about that. And also just going back to a little detail, how long have you been developing this curriculum?
Well, we spent, 2 years doing our research with all the university professors, and then we wrote it. We've been developing or utilizing it now over the last 5 years. And you're right, it's absolutely becomes a partnership. I would never suggest that a teacher do this alone. You always want to buddy up. And when we do our teachers training camps in the summer, that's what we say, find someone at your school site or even at another school site in your district that you can partner with to make sure the program is able to move forward. And then before trying to establish your curriculum, it's really important to sit down with your IT team at your district. They are so critical to making sure these programs are not only sustainable, but supported at the district level and at the college level. So your partnership with your IT team is invaluable. So we met with the directors of IT first, and they were really behind us because oftentimes school districts will say, we don't want students learning cybersecurity. They'll hack everything in our system, right? They'll get on and we have to train them. No, they're on virtual images or VMware, right? They're not going to get into your own district network. And I love what our IT director said here is that If you're afraid of the students hacking into your system, you've got bigger problems because there's people across the globe that want to get to your student data, right? And so it's important that you're training them while they're young not to open that phishing email, right? We should teach them cyber hygiene so that the students and the staff don't accidentally open something that exposes your whole network to your district. So they really became super partners and are superheroes backing us, saying, no, this is a good thing for students to learn.
That's great. And kind of going along in the same vein as that, you mentioned that teachers all around the country have adopted your curriculum. So, if there was a teacher watching who was inspired to do that at their school, how would they go about doing that?
Oh, they are welcome to email us at our program, which is Donna Woods, or it would just be dwoods@mvusd.net. They could also look on, if they look on the UC A-G curriculum, it's a website. It lists all the schools in California, and you simply type in cyber and it'll pull up all the different cyber curriculum courses throughout California, because there's many great schools doing it now that have adopted not only ours, but built their own. And I would want to say that to teachers out there. Don't try to emulate someone else's curriculum exactly as they've written it. You want to customize it to what your community needs, what your students need, and what you're already offering on that campus. Like you might be already offering AP computer science principles or something. So you want to see what would align best with your campus. What math courses are you offering there? What other STEM courses are you offering? So each district looks different. And they also would have access, I can share it with you guys later so you can put it out there, but we could give them full access to our Canvas portal. And in the Canvas portal, they can see what we gave all the teachers during their summer training camps. They have access to it 24/7. So any teacher, even if they haven't attended, are welcome to see that. And that's where we share discussion blogs and curriculum and lessons. There's so much free material out there that was not available when we started. We love it. You have cyber.org, amazing curriculum. Cisco Neticat, amazing curriculum. Palo Alto Networks. This is all free. If you go to digital citizenship on Common Sense Educator, that's free and it's broken down by all grade level. So the word free didn't exist when we started. And boy, that was tough. Like we really had to there's nothing out there for us. How do we even begin with labs? Now there's so much because the National Science Foundation and our government realized cybersecurity is important. We have to have ways to fund these programs. And so it encouraged colleges and universities to start building more labs. It encouraged the private sectors like Cisco and CompTIA and Palo Alto to start developing right curriculum. So everybody jumped in, and now there's so much great stuff out there. This is a great time to start. If you're an educator just looking to go into this is a wonderful time to come into it, because sometimes I knock my head against the wall and say, what am I doing 5 years ago? Because it was challenging, but the struggle made it all worth it to see what's happening now and the end result of our students' success.
That's really exciting. And so just to take it back to your curriculum specifically, can you tell us a little bit about where you'd like to see the curriculum, where you want to see it at in the next few years? I know it's constantly developing, but do you have any big goals for the future?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking. Well, just this year, we added the esports curriculum program, and we had an opportunity to apply for some state grants over the last 3 years, and we did. We applied for 4 different grants, totaling almost $7 million, and we won all 4. So that was very exciting. So with that, we expanded. One of the goals was to expand to our middle schools. So we have 34,000 students in this district. And so we expanded to 5 middle schools, which now all have the cyber pathway there. We added our esports. So in the next 2 years, we'll be writing our esports curriculum. We have the competition team. And then our biggest exciting piece is this grant is that we're also building a 7,700 square foot Cyber Innovation Center right on our high school campus. Now, this Innovation Center is not just class labs. This is where we do our cyber camps. We teach the Girl Scouts for their workshops, for their cybersecurity badges. We will have veterans come in here that are looking to now learn, right, a new career and earn their certifications. We will have our IT boot camps, as well as small and large businesses can send over their employees, and our students will act as the facilitators and the trainers to help their small business train their employees when they normally could not afford a very expensive IT specialist, or maybe sending all their employees out to the conference. They can send them to our Cyber Innovation Center, and our students will facilitate their training for them. And we're all doing that as a volunteer service. It's a way of our students. We always want them to give back to the community. We want them to know that a lot of people have invested in them and that it's important to give back and serve to the community, which helped bring it up to always pay it forward. That's an important, real important part of our curriculum too, pay it forward.
That is such an inspiring program, just like hearing about all the different resources that are available for your district now. Wow. So yeah, we are coming up on time, but I did have we have a few more questions. So one, you mentioned earlier that the field of cybersecurity is changing a lot. And so I was wondering if you had any particular advice for educators who are already very busy, like with their students. How would you suggest keeping on top of that and keeping their programs relevant?
The best way that we found it is really doing case studies, looking at what's happening and have the students even research, not just current events. What do you hear going on the news? I mean, when things are happening, say for like voting, right? We just had a presidential election. So last year that was real important because we could talk about the election, but talk about the issues. What are some of the issues with voting fraud when it comes to cybersecurity? How do we secure the IP addresses, right? How do we secure those voting machines? What's all involved in the background? How do we secure from nation states, foreign enemies trying to interfere? Because there's case study after case study, not just in this election, but several previous elections and all those around the country, right, where there can be cyber interference. You can always talk with how cybersecurity deals with their data, right? Students are very into their social media. That's critical. What are these social media companies? What kind of data are they gathering? You really want to make it a personal interest to the students. That's where it always begins. That's how you get them very engaged and get their passion involved. TikTok, hot item, right? Well, who owns TikTok? What was their motivation behind a recent TikTok divergent link causing students to create a lot of damage on their campus? Who are they manipulating and why? Who owns TikTok? What was their motive? You have them start going a little deeper than just what is the fun end to get a better understanding of what's going on in the background and why cybersecurity is so important. So when you let them see what's really happening and current events and get them engaged in the life of things they're already engaged in, then the learning goes through the roof because they have buy-in, because it's something they already know about, but they didn't know the behind the scenes. They didn't know the cyber effect, or they didn't know the data say that these social media companies are specifically collecting on them and why, and how that could impact their very future.
Definitely. I know a lot of people would like to ignore the behind the scenes of apps like TikTok and Facebook, but it's definitely important to look into. And so going back to just your experience as a teacher, how are you able to support your students just beyond the curriculum? Because you have so many amazing resources that you provide your students, but how do you make sure that they're really invested and how do you create a sense of community?
Wow, great question. Thank you, Madeline. That's a tough one because each student comes from a very different background, very different, diverse culturally, diverse in their learning abilities or learning style, and each of them may have different needs when they come into the classroom. So one of the first things I try to do is have a peer mentor with them, a partner, an accountability partner, not just for them, but a safe haven, someone that they can talk to and bounce ideas or information off of, or if there's a difficult time or struggle. So I really try to replicate myself through the students being there for one another. That's key. Because then maybe they'll even come share with me collectively together if they need something. Sometimes it's harder for a student to do that individually, but I do let them know I'm aware. We have to be careful. We can't give out like personal email addresses, but I do keep my school email open. I let them know if they have to contact me on the weekend. I have that connected to my phone. I think it's important. I think it's important when our students are going through life issues, we're there to support them with that. Academics, of course, is important. But I always want to give my students the benefit of the doubt. They have a life need. And I think, that old adage, when they know you care, right, then they'll care about what you're trying to impart into them. And students go through different things at different times. There's a time for where, yes, I have to be very tough and say, okay, and this is where you got to toughen up and get with it. And there are other times I have to be more empathetic and understanding to what their needs are. I know my high school teachers, my coaches, I was very involved in athletics, and my college professors were always there for me. It was mostly them that inspired me to want to go into teaching. I was raised in a single family home and was in foster care for a little while till my mom remarried. My dad, of course, being in engineering, but I can understand sometimes where the students, the hardships they go through. I had to work sometimes 1 or 2, sorry, part-time jobs while trying to go through school and college and keep, a full load of 12 units, 14 units, 16 units. That gets crazy overwhelming at times. So I think it's a matter of really being invested in your students and trying to make real connections with them so that their success, one, is worth celebrating, but you're going to overcome those obstacles together and they know they're not in it alone. That's what makes it all worthwhile. And like I said, when I gave the story about the special needs students, it was the whole class that got right behind his success and wanted to make sure it wasn't just me. It was a team of students rallying behind him and saying, you can do this, to create that belief in himself. And now he's making sure he's doing that as he's at the University of San Diego, that he has that network and those accountability people to make sure, he has a support, group around him. It's just critically important.
That is such an amazing like final message. Unfortunately, we do have to end now. Do you have like one last final thing you wanted to say, or have you pretty much?
I just would say, never give up. Teachers, I know it's hard at this time. Students, I know it's hard. This is a crazy, crazy world right now with all that's going on. It breaks my heart to see a lot of the things. We really do need each other in a sense of community, having that kindness, that genuineness to one another. Be real, be transparent. We're all going to go through things, and just be a little gentler to each other, guys. We have so many successes to celebrate. And I think if we can focus on that and some positive things and positive changes we want to make in our world, I'm not just saying that like a bubblehead blonde, we just say peace, love, happiness in the world. I'm saying we can really, really be the change we want to see, right? But we have to emulate that for each other. And I think once we start doing that and just get a mindset and not letting all of this fill us up with so much of what's going on, we can actually be that change. Like I said, so I don't know. I believe in your generation. I really do, guys. I believe in you. I'm excited. My sons are in that generation, your generation, they're there. I'm excited to see what they will do. I'm excited for all the students that have come through here. I'm going to cry, but it's actually been an honor to work with your generation and see the amazing things you're going to do. And you're not done. You're not done. And I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. It was an honor.
Of course. Thank you.
And for all the students or other educators who are watching this video, again, all the resources that we've mentioned will be right around somewhere. Make sure to watch the next episode, and thank you so much.
We'll see you next time. Bye.